Hi everybody, welcome back. As you know, we are blessed with a ton of elite athletes here in our small but very important community in the world of alpine sports. And we love having them around. Here at Park City Television tonight, we are going to talk, of course, about top flight skiing and snowboarding and winter sports, but more importantly, we're going to talk about ways in which tragic events can produce wonderful outcomes, and tonight is nothing if not the celebration of that and good works as well. Please welcome Jeanee and Jeanee Crane-Mauzy. Hey y'all.
Hi.
How are you?
We're good.
Good.
I just finished my spring break. I go to Westminster University.
Awesome.
And we had spring break, and I went touring in the Uintas for 4 days and winter camping, and it was fabulous. But now it's the second day back to school, so you know how that is. It's a little bit draining.
Thinking about
I was so excited
Uintas
yesterday, and now I'm so tired today. But here I am, and exuberant again.
Good, good. Jeanee, how about you?
Well, I've been traveling all winter for my competition, so I've actually been enjoying being able to be home for a couple weeks. It's rare.
And it is kind of an interesting thing because the two of you really are kind of twin halves of a whole, traditionally, historically, as far as traveling together, competing, all that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But before we go any farther than that, I think we probably should, for folks who may not be familiar with the two of you, but also Jeanee with the experience that you've had over the last couple of years, and really is the centerpiece of what we're going to focus on tonight. But tell folks about your experience and what happened with ski competition.
All right. So what happened was I was a professional skier, and so I got to travel around the world with my little sister all the time and compete in skiing. And on April 11th, 2015, I was actually at World Tour Finals in Whistler, Canada. And I was trying a new trick, an off-axis double backflip, so it's called the double flat 7, and I caught my edge on landing and hit my head on the snow in such a way my brain started bleeding in 8 spots. I hurt my right brainstem, so my entire right side was paralyzed. I started convulsing and I immediately went into a coma.
Well, without going any further, can I say, it's good to see you here like this.
Thank you.
I can't help but think of Sarah, and certainly a story that I'm sure there are things that have come out of that, but not a happy ending like having you here, having you healthy, and being able to celebrate the experience and what good has come out of it. Talk about what happened out in the aftermath of the accident.
Well, a lot happened in the aftermath of the accident. It was like every week I was like a different person, and I had different opportunities happen and different things happened.
Wow.
But a big thing that happened in the aftermath was I changed so much, but the way I see it, a lot of doors shut for me, but even more doors opened for me. And so that was a big thing in my recovery process, was seeing where I was and what could I accomplish tomorrow. Not what my future goals were, or what I wanted to do in the future, or who I was in the past, but what one little step could I take tomorrow? And part of that is part of why we're here, because one of the steps my sister and I are taking is we're co-founders, and I'm the executive communication director of First Family Flight. And Jeanee, why don't you explain a little bit about what First Family Flight is?
So First Family Flight is a nonprofit organization we've just barely started, and our mission is to help support families who have a family member 100+ miles from home and are in a coma due to a traumatic brain injury. So we'll help organize and support their airfare, lodging, and food so they can be there during that critical time. With our personal experience with Jamie, we had tremendous support during those stages. Whistler Blackcomb actually helped support our family's hotel rooms for us,
Wow.
which was incredibly generous of them. And during that time, I was so grateful for that. I also looked up to see if there was other opportunities for families that weren't quite as lucky as us, and the only thing that exists similar to this is for military families, but nothing for a family that's just on vacation or with sports or school or anything like that.
And it occurs to me that your appreciation of that situation in that time, I'm not going to say that if you would have just been vacationing at Whistler and you would have had a bad injury, whether or not they would have done that kind of thing to give you hotel rooms and all of that. But the fact that here you are at the top of the heap of elite competitions, obviously that I would think that would be something that they would think of as a matter of course and say, oh, well, absolutely, this is one of our athletes. But not everybody has a similar kind of situation where the ability to just sort of receive goodwill like that is part of their experience.
To tell a quick story that exemplifies that, there's a boy, Cody, who is a snowboarder, and he's from Ontario, and he was snowboard filming in Vancouver, and he was hitting a rail, he crashed, he went into a coma, and when he was at the hospital, his family had to fly in to be with him. And when they were flying in at that time, for 10 days in a row, they slept in the waiting rooms of the hospital. And it wasn't because financially they could not support a hotel. It was because when that happens to your family member, your mind goes haywire. Like, my mom travels a lot, and she forgot about passports going to Canada. It's a different country, and she forgot about that because your mind goes haywire. And so those are the types of people we're going to help and say, here's your hotel, and give them an email that will tell them what to do and where to go. Like, the parents are kind of almost like back to being 5 years old again, and they need to have someone help them because it's a really, really, I would imagine, she can tell you, scary time.
Absolutely, and the ability, as your mom's anecdote indicates, the ability to think clearly during that time, impossible? Like, how can you really be, and to have someone, in this case, your organization, but just someone who has a little bit of a remove from the situation and isn't quite as emotionally devastated, invaluable.
Definitely.
That's a big portion because we have done a lot of work on this and doing some of the business portions and competitions and all sorts of things. And one thing people bring up is they say, well, shouldn't it be based off of whether they financially can support it, like the finances, so much off the finances? And we're like, no, because it's not a financial decision. Your mind goes haywire whether you have finances or not. We want to support everybody that this crisis, every family that this crisis happens to. And you know what? If your child survives and you are treated by us and you are financially successful, well, you're going to be our biggest contribution. So thank you.
Well said. Really well. And I'm picturing sort of the pitch, right, where you go into a room and ask people for a sum of money to have an answer to a question. It's almost like a Shark Tank or a business plan to say, well, we've thought through that. That's really cool because you're right. That might seem to not be logical on the front end, but catch more flies with honey than vinegar, as they say. And I'm sure that you could have
one of our other tactics with that question also is that we want to be part of the first responders, so we want to be able to respond immediately when we have phone calls in, and we don't want to have to take time to go through financials and get records, and that's just adding more hassle to the family, not supplying support. Because with our individual case and many others, when Jamie was in the coma, she wasn't moving or anything, and she was just hooked up to a bunch of machines that monitor all of her everything. And when one of us was in the room, her heart rate would increase. And that was something that they would write down and note, that when the family members are around the person in the coma, it does feel it. So whether the patient is going to recover to the new life or whether the family is going to have to say goodbye, it's very important to be there and to be able to touch their family member and feel them and not have to worry about everything beyond that.
It's really beautiful. That's really awesome. I imagine, and tell me, are you all sort of providing a service in addition to just say helping financially, but it sounds like you're getting involved sort of logistically, which seems to me to would be terribly important as well, in as much as if we say, okay, well, you know, the family that's around, in this case, in Jamie's experience, is your mom or your dad's the one who's making 77 phone calls and, right, is always out in the hallway outside of the hospital room instead of in where they should be.
Yeah, so our goal is to partner with an airline company as well as lodging company. So we would be contacted, we would be connected also with the social worker departments of the trauma centers. As a nonprofit, you're not legally allowed to approach the family has to approach you. So the social worker would kind of be that middle person. Every case that's severe has a social worker whose job is to make sure the family is informed of what's happening and that they are coming to be there. And so the social worker would inform the family that they're one of our partners and give them our direct contact. And then once the family contacts us, either if it's before or when they're already there, we'd either be able to book airline tickets through our partner for them to arrive or at least to return, as well as set up lodging and food for them during that time. So they'd kind of give us their destination and, you know, their personal information that we need to be able to make these arrangements for them, and then we would do that.
Yeah, and we have started contacting, I can't drop names, but we're in the contacting process and we're working with people. But that's the thing, everyone who has started any corporation knows, but we are experiencing, we feel like it takes so long, and from the outside it seems so fast. Like, it's not even my 2 years anniversary yet.
Right, and I was thinking the same thing, like, you know, as you're describing kind of all of these different aspects of the mechanics of the help that you're providing, and having the sort of the plan of working with social workers and that kind of thing. I mean,
yeah,
you got your ish together.
Yeah, we only started it really like last summer. Last fall was when we launched the website. So now the website's open to start receiving donations, and we're building a board. We have 5 board members now, I think, and like we're starting working with some flight organizations, and we already contacted Vancouver General Hospital Foundation, and they 100% want to work, like their caseworkers want to partner with us. So when we get back to the stage where we are ready to actually deliver something, we already have a hospital that 100% wants to partner with us. So all that is happening, but we're like, oh, it just feels like it's taking forever, and it's so long, but then it's been pretty quick. So it's
well, and I'm sure that you all want to be in the game, so to speak, and be working with families and.
Yeah, it whenever you hear about it, it's stressful. Like you're like, I want to help.
Yeah, yeah. Jeannie, talk a little bit, if you would, about what your experience has been like as far as now being back out, traveling, competing, and it's a little different vibe than having the dynamic duo.
Going back to skiing was pretty hard for me. I went to New Zealand in the August after Jamie's accident, and I was doing a World Cup down there, and I just cried the whole day. Like, it was so emotional for me. I kept having flashbacks, and my most ideal coach that I liked wasn't there, so I didn't have the comfort zone that I was used to also.
Right.
And when I came home, I worked with a therapist for a while to be able to kind of get back to, and a quote that one of Sarah Burke's really close friends told me later in the winter. She said that it was really hard for her to forgive the half pipe for doing something so terrible when all they did was love it. And she said that she actually understood, which was a big thing for me, because a lot of people be like, oh, I understand. I was like, no, you don't. You don't understand. And I hope you never understand. But don't tell me you understand when you don't.
Right.
But for her, she actually did understand that she knew a lot more what I was going through than other people
and she was your counterpart in that scenario, huh?
Yeah, so she was able to help me, and I worked with my coaches and my parents, and Jamie came to the next competition with me, and we started having our little dog Leona traveling. So kind kind of once I was able to accept that it happened and move on, like I still love skiing and I still love competing and traveling around the world and the people I get to spend time with. It definitely took some time to get over what had happened.
Talk a little bit about, Jamie, from your perspective. I mean, I know that across all sports, we see athletes rush to get back, or, it's like, this is my thing, this is my identity, and I want to go straight back to it. Now, this is obviously a severely life-threatening experience that you had. What was your takeaway? I mean, I realized that you were kind of coming back, so to speak, especially after being in a coma. Was there a process, or were you kind of like, okay, I'm lucky to make it out of this, and I'm probably not going to go do that again? I think of Travis Pastrana, tons of people who have sustained pretty serious injuries, and especially multiple injuries, right? And some level, you're kind of an NFL quarterback in terms of having taken a really, really heavy, beyond a concussion. But did you want to go back? Was there any question ever, or?
There was a process. If you actually asked me this question last year, I would tell you that by the doctors, by the neurologists, I was completely cleared to do anything. My brain was healed. If I hit my head, it's no different than if you hit your head, really? Because it's healed in that way. So it will take some time, but I probably would like to go back to competing. And then that was how I felt even last year. And then I began to realize that I don't want to just go back to competing at a low level.
Right.
And for me to get to the level that I was at, you have to push the boundaries and push the limits every single day. And I no longer wanted to do that, and I no longer felt comfortable doing that. And so I decided over the course of, I think, this summer, that I wasn't going to try to come back to compete, but that I would ski all over the mountain and I would have a lot of fun. And this winter has honestly been one of the most fun winters with the best friends. I skied all over with my friends all the time, and it was really fun and relaxing because I didn't have a point and goals to make. I just had the experience of having fun.
That's fantastic.
But it was a process.
And Jeannie, what about you? Has it affected your long-term consideration for how long you will continue to compete?
Yes and no. So with my involvement in skiing is a little different than a lot of people. I got into it because she got into it, and then I liked it, and I got good at it, so I stuck with it. I've always been interested in having other interests beyond just skiing, and this definitely made that even more clear. Like, I've always known you don't get to choose really when you end skiing. A lot of times life kind of chooses it for you, and I've watched a lot of other people struggle with what to do afterwards. So beyond, like, I've always kept my other interests as well, so I do put the majority of my time and energy into skiing because that's the time sensitive thing. But I've always kind of kept doors open in other things I'm interested in, which is, this nonprofit is something that will last a long time beyond skiing, and it's something that will help when the time comes to make the transition smoother because I have something else I'm already working on.
And it occurs to me that the specificity of this endeavor is a really good thing. I talk to a lot of people who are raising money to help others, and it feels like as opposed to a really general sort of mission, this very specific mission, and especially a very time-based mission, that help is needed immediately when an accident happens. That I have a sense that you'll have great success with
thank you.
With this endeavor. I really do. And I'll call my rich friends and tell them to get a hold of you. Let's do social media so folks know where to go to donate and or to get involved.
Well, we have different sorts of social media. For the First Family Flight, there's a website, www.firstfamilyflight.com. And when
Okay.
you go there, in red is a little donation box. It's
Okay.
very easy to find. You click it and you fill out your information and how much money you're donating. Press donate and you'll receive a receipt so you can make it tax deductible.
Fantastic.
And we actually just put into that you can also donate on behalf of someone
Yeah.
else. So you can donate in honor
Oh,
of,
cool.
or as a present for someone else, where we have an automatic thank you note that sends out, so you can put in their email so they can also be thanked for having the idea or being in honor of. That's
awesome.
on
That's
our
really
donation
cool.
page.
And we should do your own social medias too, right?
Yeah.
Well, Instagram followers can't
Hello,
turn that down.
right? What's your handle on Insta?
Instagram is Jeanee MoCrazy.
MoCrazy.
MoCrazy is MoCrazy.
C-R-A-Z-Y.
And my Instagram is Tiny MoCrazy, following the trend.
Thanks, y'all, for being here. It's so good to see you. I'm glad that you're in such good health. I'm a little glad that you're not going to compete again. Mostly, though, this is really cool. It's wonderful work that y'all are doing, and talk about taking an undefinably traumatic experience and turning it into something really beautiful.
Thank you.
It's great
Thank
to have
you.
y'all here.
Yeah, we love coming.
Thank you. Thank you. FirstFamilyFlight.com. It's the MoCrazy sisters doing good works. I'm a lucky guy to get to hang out with people who are helping others. I sure do love that. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about the weather. And of course, that Zach Sterling is going to play lots more music, which you will enjoy.